Holders at ufaa.go.ke to request your profile to be created. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Receive, safeguard, reunite. The procedure of reporting assets to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority is simplified in the following easy steps. Step 1. Write an email to holders at ufaa.go.ke to request your profile to be created. Step 2. A link will be sent to the email provided for activation of the account. Step 3. Click on the link to activate the profile and change the password immediately. Step 4. For subsequent access, use the link provided here. In case of forgotten password, use Forgot Password link to create a new one. Step 5. After login, click on Assets to submit records, and if the client has subsidiary, you can create more users and manage users. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Receive, safeguard, reunite.
And we are very thankful because Equity Bank allowed us a moratorium of 2 years, and this has really sustained Optiven as an organization.
Next on.
Wewe walipa gani wewe?
Si wanaishi?
Gani?
Hiyo wanaishi?
Wewe bwana anasema walipa nyumba nyingine pana. Kile chumba mimi nampa free.
Mafala sana ni.
Long live Equity, we value Equity Bank.
Here on KBC Channel 1. This is the news that we are bringing you, including 1.4 million border riders who are set to be trained on matters road safety as well as the highway code to ensure that those accident numbers are just brought down. The details of that story as well as a conversation on matters the T regulations. We shall be having the Irungu Nyakera. He is the chairperson of the Kenya Tea Sector Lobby, and we shall be having that conversation on matters tea. But first, here are today's highlights.
That going forward, The advice we have got from case management teams in the Ministry of Health is that the key fundamental management center is going to be home-based care.
Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe warns Kenya witnessing a second wave of COVID-19 as the country records 14 deaths and 761 new cases.
We are not planning for now to shut down because of the COVID. If that time comes, we shall tell you.
Classes will continue. Ministry of Education rules out closing of schools despite the surge in COVID-19 infections in the country.
Let us not drive the country into a divisive engagement.
And pleading for a middle ground, Deputy President William Ruto says consensus on the Building Bridges Initiative report is key to healing the political divide. Welcome to the bulletin. Lensa Odingo is my colleague on the sign language interpretation, and I am Betty Kiptum. Now we start off on matters COVID-19, where the Ministry of Health is warning of stringent measures if Kenyans will not adhere to the COVID-19 containment protocols as the country enters its second wave of infections. On Thursday, Kenya recorded 761 new positive cases, while 14 more patients succumbed to the deadly virus. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says family members will now carry the burden of nursing their kin who get infected with COVID-19.
That the country has now entered its second wave of COVID-19 infections following an exponential rise in the daily positive cases recorded has left the Ministry of Health in limbo, seeking to balance a running economy even as it works to save lives. On Thursday, the country recorded 761 new positive cases in 24 hours from a sample size of 4,830, translating to a 15% positivity rate. Additionally, 14 more patients died during the period, raising the fatalities tally to 964. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says the numbers are worrying.
This is from a low of about 4% average per week in the month of September. Clearly, we have an issue to deal with. Up until yesterday, we have lost 54 lives to the disease this week alone.
Kagwe is categorical that the country may be forced to adopt tougher measures as the infection rate soars.
As a person, if you expose yourself or if you treat yourself carelessly, you must understand that the people who are going to take care of you are your own family members. And the reason why this is going to be the case in any event is there is a limit to how much and how many beds we can keep on creating in the country.
Currently, 1,084 patients are admitted to COVID-19 health facilities, with 35 at the intensive care unit and another 24 at the high dependency unit. This high number of inpatients is worrying the Ministry of Health as bed occupancy at the hospitals is reaching its limit. Of concern to medics is the recklessness of many Kenyans who are flouting stipulated containment measures, a situation which may cost them dearly.
Not wearing a mask can render you fined a substantial amount of money. I think at the moment, the monies involved are substantial. There are substantial amounts of money, but you make clear, we will send out a circular exactly to the police and elsewhere, so that when they are enforcing these fines, then they will use the right figures. I can't remember offhand, but I think it's something like 20,000.
On November 4th, the national and county governments will hold the 6th extraordinary meeting to discuss the current COVID-19 status and recommend appropriate remedies. Kamchemenza for Channel 1 News.
Now, the Ministry of Education has ruled out the closing of schools following the surging cases of COVID-19 in the country. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says learners in schools will continue with their studies, but other classes will have to wait longer to return to school. Speaking in Nairobi, the Education Cabinet Secretary said parents too must chip in to ensure the safety of their children.
The government has no plans to shut down schools amid a resurgence of COVID-19 cases in the country. 17 students and 33 teachers have so far tested positive for COVID-19 since schools reopened 2 weeks ago. The Ministry of Education is reassuring parents that learners in schools are safe, but they too must play a role.
Yes, it is spiking. It's not only spiking in this country. And what we are grappling with is, do we open for the other children or not? That decision is yet to be made, and I want to say that from the information reaching me, I'm glad that all schools, even those who had attempted to open earlier, have buckled and gone back. They should just wait. Nobody wants our children to stay at home forever, but it has to be a collective responsibility.
Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says the government does not intend to allow more children to schools, at least for now.
The examination timetable, there are no changes because, like I said, we are not planning for now to shut down because of the COVID. If that time comes, we shall tell you. So for now, the timetable for examination remains, and the children should be urged to continue to prepare.
He urged parents with children in boarding schools to clear school fees and support the use of COVID-19 preventive gears for learners.
My plea to those parents, and I feel them, there are some who are retrenched and there are some who lost earnings. But there are also a few who can come up and top up the fees they paid.
To help schools facing flooding following heavy rains being experienced, Magoha said the government will erect tents as well as transfer those affected to nearby schools. Magoha spoke at Uhuru Gardens Primary School during an assessment of learning and delivery of desks in Langata sub-county. Meanwhile, the Kenya National Union of Post-Primary Teachers, KUPPET, has backed the decision by the Ministry of Education not to allow other classes resume learning.
Germany and France are reconsidering another lockdown. Those are advanced economies with very good, robust health facilities. But in our situation, we are not very sure of whether we can proceed and deal with matters of health. So it would be disastrous to open schools when there is a high surge in infection.
KUPPET says children's well-being is a matter of priority for now. Irene Mchuma Udim, Channel 1.
And President Uhuru Kenyatta has instructed the police to be firm when dealing with threats to national security. The head of state, who spoke Thursday in Kajiado County, where he presided over the graduation ceremony of paramilitary officers who attended a 3-month Kenya Police Tactical Operation course at the National Police Service Magadi Field Training Campus, reiterated government's commitment to continue providing the police with the necessary training, resources and weaponry to discharge its mandate.
Speaking when he presided over the graduation ceremony of paramilitary officers who attended a 3-month Kenya Police Tactical Operation course at the National Police Service in Magadi Field Training Campus, Kajiado County on Thursday, President Uhuru Kenyatta called on the police not to waver when dealing with those threatening peace and order in the country.
Wito wetu kama serikali ni kusema ya kwamba agencies zetu zote za serikali zifanye kazi pamoja, kwa sababu ni kwa kufanya pamoja ambapo tutakuwa na huo uwezo wa kuhakikisha ya kwamba tumeshinda adui ambaye aendelea kusumbua usalama wa taifa letu la Kenya.
While commending the officers for their bravery and determination that saw them complete the tough training, President Kenyatta reminded the policemen to remain true to their calling by maintaining high standard of discipline, professionalism and integrity.
Na mimi sina shaka kama wenzenu ambao walipitia training hii na ambao wanaendelea kufanya kazi muhimu haswa katika sehemu za mipaka ya taifa letu. Najua hata nyinyi mutafanya hivyo hivyo.
At the same time, the head of state reiterated the government's commitment to continue with the modernization of the National Police Service.
Na mimi nataka niwahakikishie ya kwamba kama serikali tutahakikisha ya kwamba mmepatiwa vifaa vile ambavyo vinatakikana muweze kujisimamia na kujilinda wakati ambapo mnatekeleza shughuli zenu za kulinda taifa letu la Kenya.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i and Inspector General of the National Police Service Hilary Mutyambai, who also spoke at the ceremony, also attended by Environment Cabinet Secretary Kariako Tobiko and Chief of the Defense Forces General Robert Kariuki Kibochi, lauded the President's steadfastness in ensuring the security of all Kenyans.
And Your Excellency, we have witnessed the dramatic changes in the investment in the security sector and the training and the capacitation of the teams that we have in the security sector. On my own behalf and on behalf of my colleagues at the Ministry of Interior, I would like to thank you for your continued support.
You bear me witness, Your Excellency. What you have seen is a total change, and it is attributed to what we have seen in Northeastern for the last 6 months. That region is calm after we deployed the 7 units in Northeastern.
Wycliffe Okech for Channel 1 News.
Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says there is need for a framework to harmonize cost of services covered by the National Hospital Insurance Fund in both private and public hospitals. At the same time, Kagwe called for enhanced collaboration between national and county governments to facilitate provision of quality healthcare as envisioned in the Universal Health Coverage, which is part of the government's Big Four development agenda.
During the ongoing Health Sector Intergovernmental Forum on Universal Health Coverage in Mombasa County, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe challenged county governments to take the lead in monitoring provision of quality services to the public.
The current situation of COVID-19, as you know very well, the few private sector hospitals that we have are already stretched out. It is not an indication that the country's health facilities are stretched out. It is an indication that the faith that we have in our own government sector is wanting.
Acknowledging milestones achieved by the government in provision of affordable health care, including the establishment of the first molecular center at the Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital, Kagwe expressed optimism of increased uptake of cancer diagnostic services and treatment.
I would also like to say that we have a team now that is co-chaired by the Chair Committee, Council of Governors for Health, Governor Kuti, and the KU Chair, Olive Mogenda. They have formed a team, a task force, that is supposed to work on the issues of cancer and the implementation, a special purpose vehicle, whose responsibility is to follow the implementation and the purchase of PET scans to various regional hospitals in order for us to be able to carry out cancer treatment from diagnosing a full range all the way to treatment.
At the same time, the Cabinet Secretary pointed out the need to facilitate use of the National Hospital Insurance Fund in all facilities countrywide.
A situation where an X-ray costs 800 shillings or 600 shillings at Kenyatta National Hospital, 10,000 shillings in a private hospital, and NHIF pays both. That cannot and will not continue. Can we be able to bring down the premiums at NHIF and then spread them across all the people in this country who can't afford it? That's our job. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our job, to bring down the cost of healthcare.
The climax of the forum will be on Saturday during the signing of the Intergovernmental Participation Agreement to nationally roll out universal healthcare. For Channel 1 News Hour from Mombasa County, I am Anne Buru.
Now, Deputy President William Ruto has urged leaders to work together towards a consensus on the Building Bridges Initiative report recommendations. Ruto, who was in Kajiado, said it was possible to have a non-contested referendum if leaders would put aside their selfish interests, saying the document should not be used to divide Kenyans by railroading them to choose sides.
Speaking in Kajiado on Thursday during the burial of nominated Senator Mary Senator's father Mzee Elijah Olekuyo in Isinya, the Deputy President asked leaders to heed to President Uhuru Kenyatta's call for a consensus that would take into consideration the view of a majority of Kenyans.
It is possible for us, if we eliminate selfish interests, it is possible for us to arrive at a consensus so that we can drive this process, unify the country, avoid unnecessary division. Even when we go to a referendum, let us have a non-contested referendum. There is no gain for anybody to drive us into an us versus them, winners versus losers, this group versus that group.
Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kiptum Murkomen asked those pushing for the adoption of the BBI report to stop dismissing the views of those questioning it, asking them to stop chest thumping and shouting at Kenyans.
Hii Kenya, hakuna mtu wa Kenya A na Kenya B. Na hii Kenya haiendi mahali. Tuketi wote meza moja, tukubaliane, tupitishe kwa sababu inawezekana kuwa na win-win constitution ambaye kila mmoja anajisikia yeye ni Mkenya.
Let us not drive the country into a divisive engagement.
Murkomen said there were issues in addition to those raised by Dr. Ruto during the report's launch at Bomas of Kenya earlier this week that needed to be fixed. Kandara MP Alice Wahome said the airing alternative view to those highlighted in the report does not amount to opposing the report, adding that the president said there was room for talks to accommodate everyone.
Nafikiri rais wetu pia alikubali kuna nafasi ya kuzungumza. Kama nia ya BBI ni kuweka nchi pamoja, sisi tutakuwa hiyo raini ya kwanza.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Ben Troy Njue.
Remember, you can always interact with us on Twitter. We are at KBC Channel 1. I am at Betty Kiptum. And on Facebook, we are at KBC Channel 1 News. We will see you with more news after this short break. Stay with us.
Our relationship with Equity Bank started back in 2015. At the beginning, it was launched through the Easy app or the Equitel. So we stocked up our first shop, and that's where it started.
We prepared ourselves to open another branch, but unfortunately, we ran out of cash. Equity gave us a loan.
Now we have even 2 branches. Since COVID came in, the cost of medication went up, and also India banned exports of medications.
Equity helped us through restructuring our loans.
They reduced the amount we were paying before to almost half.
With EasyPay, it's easy for mobile transfers or online banking.
By the Pay With facility of Equity Bank, we have been able to accept multiple payments from different platforms.
Equity can never let us down. They are always there to support us as we walk through the journey.
On the next episode of Ashoka.
Stop, Emperor!
On the next episode of Corner.
And everything that's going on.
Actually, I can't really talk. I was in the middle of training.
Amani will always be my grandchild.
How? If Wanjala is not part of the family anymore?
Sasa hiyo ni uongo yako ama ni yangu? Sawa. Sijisikii na details.
If
If the man was maybe honest, I wouldn't have to stoop this low, following him around like some stalker. You don't talk to him.
The second leg of the CAF Champions League encounter between five-time winners Zamalek and Raja Casablanca is on this Sunday in Cairo. The match was to have been held on the 24th of October 2020 but postponed due to the Raja camp being invaded with the coronavirus. Zamalek pipped Raja Casablanca by 1-0 in the first leg tie played in Morocco on the 18th of October 2020. Now, between these two North African soccer giants, who will join Al Ahly in the grand finale? Watch the cracker live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 this Sunday, 1st November 2020, kickoff 10 p.m. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. You are watching Business Insight. Now, opposition leader Raila Odinga has dismissed claims by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, that a Building Bridges Initiative referendum could cost the taxpayer over 14 billion shillings. Raila said a team will soon be picked to sit with the IEBC and ascertain the true cost of the referendum, saying in established democracies that hold regular elections, the cost per voter ranges from 100 shillings to 200 shillings.
In a statement, Raila argued that since Kenya has well-established institutions including police stations, schools, national and county government offices, as well as government vehicles and a well-established transport infrastructure, the cost of running the referendum will be less than 2 billion shillings. He said some people could be taking advantage of elections to plunder public resources, questioning how referendum will cost 14 billion shillings. Raila said no wonder among the issues the BBI intends to address is sanity in the election process, including aligning the cost to global trends. Meanwhile, in Naivasha, Senate Speaker Ken Lusaka has revealed that the Senate Committee on Justice and Legal Committee is going through the BBI report before the House announces its position.
Even if we are to go for a referendum to move forward with consensus, between, say, the two houses, because if the National Assembly and the Senate have some same level of comfort, then it will be easier, because I know some of these things will come to the National Assembly, then eventually come to the Senate. So we want a situation where we are reading from the same script and we move together as Parliament.
In Lamu, the Interior Principal Secretary Dr. Karanja Kibicho, accompanied by Governor Fahim Twaha, have rallied for support of the BBI proposals, saying the document aims at improving the county socio-economic and political well-being.
Tusiende kwa hii safari kama tumejifunga macho ya wanasiasa, na msiende kwa hii safari mkiwa kama wale watu wengine nasikia wakiambiwa ati my mind is made, don't confuse me with facts. Mimi tayari nishaamua, usiamue kabla usome.
Pata 35% tusimamie vizuri, tutapiga hatua mbali sana. Inshallah. Matatizo mengi tutaweza kuyatatua na maendeleo mengi tutaweza kufanya makubwa na kwa haraka.
Well, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, NCIC, want politicians to debate on the BBI report soberly and without inciting Kenyans. The commission that was in Murang'a urged Kenyans not to be used by politicians to ignite violence.
Eleza point zako bila kuchochea. Commission itaendelea kumonitor political rallies and social gatherings for hate speech, ama wale wanachochea wengine kwa misingi ya kikabila.
Well, in Nairobi, a lobby group calling itself Youth for Kenya has voted to reject the Building Bridges Initiative report, claiming it marginalizes some sections of the Kenyan society.
For the conversation to continue, we must have somebody who is a youth in that steering committee.
From where we sit, we actually feel that as young people, there is a big meal that is BBI, and these smaller things that are being added are just sweeteners to help young people support a process and take people to a wedding. But we are not part and parcel. We are not the groom, and we are not even the bride, and we are not even eating rice in that particular wedding.
Suleiman Yeri, Channel 1.
And Jubilee Deputy Chairperson David Murathe has called on political leaders to stop propagating the hustler narrative, saying it may end up polarizing the youth of central Kenya. Murathe claims the narrative is weaponizing youth and may claw back the gains made by the government in ending the outlawed sects that have caused untold suffering in some parts of Kenya. Speaking in Nairobi, Murathe claimed those calling for a national consensus on the Building Bridges Initiative report are not sincere and only interested in derailing the process.
And that is what they are reincarnating, because it is very appealing to the young people, the touts, the people who feel that they are poor because you're rich. And then you have the rich versus the poor, you have the hustlers versus the dynasties, and you radicalize these young people. It is a recipe for chaos, it is a recipe for violence, and it is a recipe for disaster. And this is what the concerns are. But we are watching. And if he continues to try and radicalize our young people, our youth, our unemployed, instead of giving them meaningful economic empowerment agendas, like the BBI is trying to do, to create an enabling environment for these people to get gainful employment, not handouts.
5 ambassadorial nominees were Thursday grilled by the National Assembly's Defense and Foreign Relations Committee to determine their suitability. Among those who faced the panel included Ambassador Martin Kimani, who has been posted as the permanent representative to the United Nations in New York, who was tasked to explain how he would ensure UN Habitat headquarters in Nairobi is strengthened and safeguarded.
While appearing before the National Assembly's Defense and Foreign Relations Committee,
I, Martin Kimani, swear that the evidence I shall give before this committee.
Former National Counter-Terrorism Center Director Ambassador Martin Kimani pledged to work diligently and be patriotic to the country in his role as permanent representative to the United Nations in New York.
This honor to serve Kenya in New York is meant to harness, I think, one, my experience in peace and security matters, starting from the conceptual aspect of peace and security to the practical deployment of our skills and our team towards moving the Security Council in a direction that is more partial to how Kenya sees the world.
Ambassador Martin Kimani, who also served as Joint Secretary of the Building Bridges Initiative, BBI, was taken to task by the House Committee, who accused him of trying to intimidate the members by listing President Uhuru Kenyatta as one of his referees.
Reference means people have to get back to somebody to ask him to vote for you or so and so. More so when he has appointed you. Or is it part of, are you trying to intimidate us to say your referee is Uhuru Kenyatta?
The referees I put there are not people I went and said, can you be my referee? I actually thought these are people who know my character very well from working with me very closely. And I was thinking in relation to this particular appointment, to this particular assignment. And so now when I think, can the referee be contacted, then I realized it was a mistake to put that. I'd be happy to add one more name to those references.
The 49-year-old with a PhD in war studies from King's College, University of London, also found himself on the receiving end after a section of committee raised concerns over his net worth of 58 million shillings.
I've been working from 1998 up to today with the UN bodies, which we know very well they pay very well, compared with those people who are based basically here in Kenya as civil servants. And I see you have indicated your asset as 58 million point something. Are you telling me that you have not been saving or investing?
Honorable member, in terms of my spending and my saving culture, I'm sure I could learn a few lessons. I have spent a long time investing in myself, investing in my education. I have taken time off as an adult to do a master's and a PhD and forgone many years of earning to get those academic qualifications.
Others who were vetted included Immaculate Wambua, who was nominated as Kenya's ambassador to Ottawa, Catherine Mwangi was nominated as Kenya's ambassador to Pretoria.
I knew there were job opportunities, but I didn't know that Canada was declining. I have to look at that and see why they are declining Kenyans to enter into the job market in Canada. What I know is we have a lot of Kenyans in Canada, about 400,000 Kenyans, an estimate, who are in Canada. And there are no complaints so far. So that is a task I will take up.
The issue of visas would be an area of priority, because you cannot even increase trade or do anything if Kenyans cannot go to South Africa. So that is an area that we would need to work on.
Ben Chumba, reporting for Channel 1 News.
In the corridors of justice now, the High Court in Nairobi has nullified 23 bills affecting counties that were passed by the National Assembly without Senate involvement. A 3-judge bench ruled that the move was unconstitutional and therefore null and void. However, the court handed the National Assembly a reprieve by suspending the declaration of invalidity for 9 months to allow rectification. The Senate had petitioned the court challenging legality of the bills passed by the National Assembly, claiming the proposed laws passed directly affect counties, hence their input was required as anchored in law.
The National Assembly has suffered a major setback in their legislation mandate after the High Court nullified all new and amendment bills affecting counties passed without input from the Senate. Justice Jairus Ngaa, Anthony Ndongo, and Teresia Madeka say the passage of the 23 bills was contrary to the Constitution. Among the bills nullified is the KEMSA Act, which requires counties to purchase drugs and medical supplies exclusively from the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority. Other proposed legislation nullified include the Public Trustee Amendment Act, the Building Surveyors Act of 2018, Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018, and the Statute Law Miscellaneous Amendments Act of 2018, Equalization Fund Appropriation Act of 2018, the Sacco Society Amendment Act number 16 of 2018, National Youth Service Act number 17 of 2018, the Sports Amendment Act number 7 of 2019, and the National Cohesion and Integration Commission Amendment Act of 2019. The judges further directed that both houses of parliament should be involved in approving bills touching on devolution and counties. Elsewhere, 3 suspects arrested on Wednesday at Kikopey along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway, trafficking 662 kilograms of bang worth over 22 million shillings, have been released on a 8 million shillings bond with an alternative cash bill of 4 million shillings. Bonaventure Ambani, Mike Arito, and Frederick Oduor deny the charges before Senior Principal Magistrate Daniel Ndungi, who set November 5th, 2020 for mentioning of the case. For Scales of Justice, I'm Ben Troinjue.
We now take a quick break. We'll be back with more news, including the latest in business. Stay with us.
The procedure of reporting assets to the Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority is simplified in the following easy steps. Step 1. Write an email to holders at ufaa.go.ke to request your profile to be created. Step 2. A link will be sent to the email provided for activation of the account. Step 3. Click on the link to activate the profile and change the password immediately. Step 4. For subsequent access, use the link provided here. In case of forgotten password, use Forgot Password link to create a new one. Step 5. After login, click on Assets to submit records, and if the client has subsidiary, you can create more users and manage users. Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority. Receive, safeguard, reunite.
If we didn't get the funding from Equity, the COVID pandemic would have been a big hit to us.
Next on.
Since you got married by joint tenancy, we have to dissolve the marital partnership. And that's going to include returning half of this office.
We say, if you want to be helped, join Equity.
On the next episode of
niko single. Kwa wakati niko very single. Kabisa.
Wewe walipa chupa gani wewe?
Si wanaishi?
Gani?
Hiyo anaishi.
Wewe bwana anasema alipa nyumba nyingine pale. Kile chumba mimi nampa free.
Mafala sana nyinyi. Yaani hamjajua kwamba nyinyi mwana sahani moja?
Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
Next on.
Your brother deals drugs. Wake up. You even saw him use.
Dad framed him. Find the killer and you're a free bird.
I don't take threats from toddlers, Tiff. Dig deeper. That is if you want your child back out of the children's home.
You need money. I can pay you.
You're your mother's daughter. When I'm Nancy, I'm not a fault.
Najua nafanyia Nancy kazi.
Si hata unamfanyia kazi.
Ni msee mzuri.
Wacha niseme si kabaya.
Ni kama anafanya kazi na Nancy.
Welcome back. You are watching Business Insight. Let's now do the business. 1.4 million border operators are set to be trained on traffic rules and safety on the road from next week. The training conducted by the National Youth Service under the ICT Ministry could see over 40% of unlicensed border operators getting driving licenses. With 4.8 million people in Kenya relying on motorcycles for movement, the government is seeking to formalize the border industry through training that mainly targets unlicensed operators. The ICT Ministry, working with the National Youth Service, targets to train 1.4 million border operators on the highway code and road safety.
About 40% of border do not have licenses, and we hope even maybe before the end of this year, they can all be trained. It's a 1-week training. They get the full training and they all have licenses. They all have all the knowledge so that they can maintain the process.
One of the challenges that we have been having as the riders is lack of driving licenses. You see, and the lack of road safety skills and etiquettes.
The training will be conducted in all counties at a subsidized cost of 750 shillings per person, since most motorcyclists cannot afford the driving school fees.
They cannot afford to pay those fees that were being paid to the driving school to make sure that they operate their licenses. That's why almost 90% of the riders in this country never had licenses.
Training tutawapatia ndio wapate certificate ile watapata, alafu wapate license, tutaripisha shilingi 750 shillings.
Over 40% of border operators in Kenya are unlicensed, which is blamed for the high number of accidents involving motorcyclists. With trainings, the government is hoping to reduce the accidents.
I want to urge all the border riders across the country to make sure that we support the government in this best initiative that they are giving to us.
A report by the National Transport and Safety Authority shows that 10.5% of the 1,022 road accident fatalities recorded between January and April this year were motorcycle passengers. And the Kenyan coast is known for azure blue waters and award-winning sun-drenched beaches. But under the clear waters of the Indian Ocean, a new money-minting venture is slowly taking shape, that is seaweed farming. A coastline community in Kwale County has embraced this mode of farming, smiling deep into the waters and all the way to the bank. O'Brien Kimani now highlights the highs and the low tides of Kibuyuni seaweed farmers.
Deep in the waters, that has become the lifestyle of many residents of Kibuyuni here in Shimoni of Kwale County. Every morning, they have to venture deep into the waters to check their cash crop. And this is not fish. I'm talking about seaweed. This crop has changed their lifestyles for good. It has helped them take their children to school and build better houses. Tucked about 30 miles east of Diani, Kibuyuni is a backwater village surrounded by various attraction sites. From Kisita Mpunguti Marine Reserve and Coral Caves, they attract thousands of visitors each year. But despite this, the community has remained poor for years, with the poverty levels above Kenya's national average. But this narrative is slowly changing thanks to new opportunities. In the last 10 years, a new business venture has been taking shape, pioneered by local women. In the year 2010, about 50 women formed the Kibuyuni Seaweed Farmers Cooperative Union after years of nail-biting poverty levels. Supported by the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, the women came together to invest their time and energy on this new venture.
Tulianza sisi wa mama, tulipofanya mradi na tukaona kweli ya kwamba itatufaa na inatusaidia. Na huu mradi ulitusaidia sana, twashukuru, kwa maana ile maisha tulikuwa nayo baadaye na sasa tukilinganisha na maisha tuko nayo yako tofauti.
At first, they were the laughing stock of the village for breaking from the social norms. But as the days grew old, the locals started to appreciate their efforts.
Si mateso kwetu, bali tumezoeleka na hatuna shida. Kwa ufupi, hatuna shida. Na saa hiyo mwezi iliyopita, sasa hii wakulima wanamiminika, wanajirejesti kwenye hii cooperative yetu Kibuyuni. Hii ina manufaa sana.
Though a new phenomenon in Kenya, seaweed or kelp farming has been around for centuries, with China, Japan and South Korea being the dominant players. In Asia, the weed is used to make eco-friendly plastic, dessert, as well as for beauty products. Here in Kibuyuni, the crop is used for making fish pellets, soaps, hair shampoos and shower gel. But new market opportunities are emerging in the United States as well as Asia.
Mwani tunasaga unga, ambapo unga pia uko na benefits nyingi ambazo tunatumia katika kuweka katika chakula, na pia huo unga ukirudi tena pia tunatengeneza donut, tunatengeneza keki, pia tunatumia katika maandazi, ambapo tuko na vyakula kama aina kama 8 hivi ambazo pia tunatumia kutumia huu unga wa mwani.
But this venture is not for the faint-hearted. At the click of dawn, a team of women streamed to the farm about 350 meters from the shores to attend to the crop.
Sisi kweli wakulima wa seaweed. Seaweed zinahitajika kulimwa kwenye bahari. Bahari ni maisha. Hii bahari toka tuzaliwe na mababu walitukuza, wa mama zetu, wa mababa zetu walikuzwa kwa minajili ya bahari. Sasa sisi wakulima, kilimo cha seaweed hufanyika kwenye bahari, hakifanyiki kwenye maji ya mto. Manake seaweed ukizilima kwenye maji ya mto zinaoza.
It is a Herculean task where one has to venture deep into the above waste waters to tend to the crop. A gram of the crop once planted will give you 1.5 kilograms of seaweed, selling at 15 shillings per kilo. After 6 weeks, the weed is ready for harvest, where it's dried and packaged in bales weighing 100 kilos and ready for export.
Wamama zetu wamepiga hatua kubwa sana Kibuni, kutoka na pale mwanzo na sahii tuko na tofauti kubwa, kwa sababu kuna mwenye ambaye amejenga nyumba ya blocks na ameweka bati. Kwa hiyo tumetoka katika nyumba za kitamaduni ambazo ni za udongo tukaenda katika maendeleo, stage ya maendeleo ambapo tumetumia blocks na kuweka pia mabati. Kwa hiyo tunashukuru pia. Alafu kirudi tena katika hii bidhaa ya mwani, tuko na ujuzi ambao tuko nao kidogo, tumeweza kuwezeshwa na watu wa Kirdi kutoka Nairobi. Wameweza kutufunza bidhaa kadha wa kadha kidogo ambazo tuko nazo. Kwa hiyo tunatengeneza sabuni na tunatengeneza shampoo, tuko na sabuni pia ya maji ya kuoshea mikono, na tunatengeneza pia gel, na tunatengeneza pia donuts na vitu vingine kadha wa kadha.
But the returns are not high due to lack of proper packaging equipment. A kilo of seaweed bar soup will cost you 900 shillings, almost 5 times the ordinary bar soup.
Apart from, making fish pellets, you can also use seaweed to make a shampoo or even shower gel. And maybe if that is too much for you, you can opt to go for a bar of soup, which according to the makers here, is actually soothing and good for your skin.
And even as they explore opportunities elsewhere, they are worried about a planned seaport in the area, the port of Shimoni.
Hii bahari inataka kuchimbwa, ifanywe poti. Kuna kule upande mwingine bahari inataka kuchimbwa, ifanywe kampuni ya kuchemsha, ya kuyayusha vyuma, na ni meli ambazo zitoke kule Ulaya, meli ambazo zimepita karne na karne. Zivurutwe zikuje hapa Kibuyuni ambako tuko na mradi sisi wamama, wavuvi wataathirika na sisi wamama wataathirika.
The women of Kibuyuni are hoping that the government will support them set up a proper packaging system to help their produce access markets beyond the village. But for now, it is weed, and more weed for the prosperity of this sleepy village of Kibuyuni. O'Brien came in for Business Insight.
Quite a show of grit there by those women in the coastal region. We love such encouraging stories. Now here we would like to delve into our interactive session, and tonight I am hosting Irungu Nyakera. He is the chairperson of the Kenya Tea Sector Lobby, and we'd like to just discuss matters the tea sector. There's been quite some shake-up brought by those regulations fronted by the government, and we'd like to get just what he thinks about those regulations, as well as what is ailing the tea sector, and if farmers have any hope in this particular trade or farming. Welcome on set, Mr. Irungu Nyakera.
Thank you.
It's good to have you. Now let's start with some background. Right now it's said that the farmers' earnings are dwindling. And so if you could just paint for us a picture of how things were and how they are now, and what could be causing this dwindling of earnings.
Yeah. So, first, thank you very much for hosting me and on this, and because it's really something that has become part of the national dialogue, and more not just because of tea, but because agriculture forms about 65% of our GDP. So when one of these areas that actually forms 10% of GDP, which is tea, ails, then it means that we have a lot of hopeless farmers. And I think when you talk about the dwindling of the returns for farmers, we don't even need to look too many years back. Between this year and last year, you'll see some, like, if I can use some factories, Ngere Tea Factory in Muranga was 38 shillings last year. For bonus, this year is 30, sorry. Kiru Tea Factory was 30 shillings, this year was 20. So you're seeing that the numbers are going down by almost a third, 20-30% in terms of the numbers. Of course, you'll find that the KTDA will come and say that this year the numbers are high, but what they're not telling us that also the production is higher.
Yes, the production was high.
So the price per kg is actually lower. And that then is the reason why these regulations came about. And not just the regulations, that's also why the reason why we have the tea bill itself, which is with the Agriculture Committee in Parliament. And the purpose of these regulations is actually to address this very challenge, where the farmers are seeing dwindling earnings, where the farmers are increasingly becoming hopeless, and where as a subsector, it's starting to seem that it can go the coffee way unless something is done.
And how are these regulations going to sort out this problem and put money back into the pockets of the farmers?
The regulations actually were not created this year or last year. Actually, the journey to create the regulations started in 2014, and during that period is also when the tea task force of 2016 was created to look at what are the real challenges within the sector, and a number of things were identified. And key among those things was governance issues. The governance issues at KTDA and also the factory are the reasons why the farmers are not able to get at least the 75% in terms of return on the sale price of their commodity. The regulation side issue is what makes farmers feel that they do not own factories because there's someone else through their own machinations that are controlling the ownership of the factories. The issues of governance are what is making farmers their money to be lost. Like when money was put in Imperial Bank, money was put in Chase Bank by KTDA. When KTDA takes money and buys farms, buys your family bank and all these other things, assets that are not of use to farmers, that's farmers' money because of lack of governance. Those are issues that are being addressed at the regulations. There are then the other issues that are being addressed as the task force report said that for you to get a good price or high price, we're looking at which countries are we benchmarking ourselves with. An example is Sri Lanka. One is marketing. We need to be able to do a lot more marketing. Our traditional markets are markets that some of them are very unstable. When you talk about the Pakistan, the Iraq, the Egypt, Sudan, those are our main markets, and they're fairly unstable. But we've not expanded our marketing outside these traditional markets. So because the team at KTD is very comfortable with the little markets that they have, because then they feel that they don't need to do more. When you look at places like Sri Lanka, 65% of their tea leaves their country in added value form. Kenya, 2% of our tea. So those are things that have been addressed in the task force report on how do we get the farmers to earn more than they currently are. Then there's of course the issue of the farmers, how much money is coming to the farmer on a monthly basis. And there's what they call sokohuru. And sokohuru is when a farmer hawks their tea. And the reason they hawk their tea and get a much lower price on tea as opposed to getting what they're paid and then waiting for the balance at bonus is because the price that is paid on a monthly basis is too low. So again, how do we increase this price that is paid to them? And finally, given that the price of tea is controlled by to some extent by the global prices on tea, how do we cushion our farmers such that should there be bad years, there will be a way to protect them, that their earnings will not go below a certain point, because a lot of these farmers borrow money. So when they're paid much less than what they had been promised, they end up with loans that have not been paid for at the end of the year. So that's again what we call the minimum guaranteed return, which is carried under the T-bill. So those are the regulations that are being looked at and how to actually improve the life of the farmer through this.
Of course, there's been quite some concern about how the KTDA or even the cooperative societies are managing the monies of the farmers. But I had a conversation with a KTDA official a few weeks ago, and he said that they are not against the regulations, or rather regulating the sector. They just want regulations that is going to support the sector fully instead of killing one sector. Do you think that these regulations are going to kill a system that has been developed for decades?
Actually not. You see, for us, as the champions of the regulations, we are for KTDA. We are for having that organization, the national organization that actually aggregates what the farmers are bringing together from all the 69 different factories. So nobody actually wants to kill KTDA. Nobody wants to make KTDA part of a parastatal. What we want is for KTDA to become regulated, for KTDA to become accountable to the farmers. Because right now, it's the case of the principal, the agent, and the agent has become the principal, is the one who decides. Yeah, you saw the other day when the MD for KTDA came out and said, all those guys who are unhappy with the bonus, you can uproot your tea. You see, that's the kind of arrogance and attitude that has become part of the corporate culture at KTDA, and that is what needs to change. One thing that we've been saying is that KTDA needs to actually know and appreciate that they were not created to deliver tea to the world. They were created to be able to deliver these farmers out of poverty. So if all they're doing is just taking farmers' tea and delivering it at the lowest price to the global markets, then they're really not helping this farmer. So, and KTDA has become, there are just a few individuals within KTDA who've captured it, and of course part of the bigger cartel, because tea is huge, it's 10% of our GDP. So there are few individuals who've captured that, and they're doing business with it, they're happy with it, they're happy with status quo. They're not interested in anything that changes the livelihood of farmers. I was asking one of them, I'm telling them, the regulations are speaking about the ownership of factories. The factories are owned by farmers. Like the factory where my factory is in Kiru, in Mathio, in Murang'a, has 8,000 farmers. But these 8,000 farmers don't feel like owners because they have no decision on who becomes a director in that factory. They have no decision on what investments these factories make. They have no decision on what kind of expenses this factory incur. They have no clue and have no representative who tells them tea has left the factory, it is at the auction, it has been sold at X price. Because all those things are controlled by individuals within KTDA. And that's what they're looking at. They're saying these reforms, these regulations are actually for opening up this space, demystifying the role of KTDA and being very specific on what value KTDA is bringing to the table. There's the issue of the extension services. There's the issue of anything that has economies of scale, like the fertilizer and all this. Those remain with KTDA. Things like marketing. KTDA should be marketing our tea to get us higher prices. Things like value addition, as we were saying, coming up with the common user blending facility and encouraging investors to be able to add value to Kenyan tea. That's what they should be doing. They should not be focusing on who becomes the director of Kiru Tea Factory. You see, that's what they do today.
Okay, and of course, one of the key points to get the money to the farmers is to ensure that the tea is sold at the best price possible, based on the quality. And these regulations seek to ban, or rather have banned the direct sale of the Kenyan tea, you know, that it has to go through the auction. What is your view on these, and how do you think this is going to help Kenyan tea?
You see, when we talk about the direct sales, countries like we're saying, the Rwanda, which is getting almost 3 times the price of Kenya, the Sri Lanka, which is double the price of Kenya, they don't do direct sales. All the prices, all the tea is sold through the auction. And if you look at about 40% of the Kenyan tea is from the big corporates who sell to themselves. In the outside the Kenyan market. So the auction in itself is actually also to help in realizing the actual price discovery that you get in the auction. And that price discovery even helps KRA to be able to collect the right taxes out of them. But what it also does, which is why 100% of the tea is supposed to go through the auction as opposed to the direct sales. The direct sales is very opaque. In terms of what are the credit terms of the people who are buying. We've seen instances where actually people buy the tea and default on payment. It has happened, and it can always happen. What happens when they default is the farmers who are hurt. It's not KTDA because it was a specific tea that was delivered to them and they never paid for it. We've seen the instances where the credit term given to some of these buyers is almost 180 days, 6 months to be able to pay tea that they sell in cash to whichever other country that they go. We were just doing some very quick computations in the month of August. We saw that there's some 1,000 containers that were sold on the direct sales that cost the farmer, if you look at the differential on the price at the auction, 165 million difference on just one sale of 1,000 containers. How many other sales happen in that way? And that's why these regulations ban the direct sales and require that all the sales go through the auction.
Yeah. Now, you've given us quite a number of good points about these regulations, but there has been some uproar from the other side as well, from KTDA to COG, the Council of Governors. Some of them are saying that these regulations need to be relooked at. What are your views on this?
Okay, from KTDA, I think their concerns are concerns from people who are enjoying a current monopoly. They're enjoying the status quo. So their complaints are not things that we even look at because it's from it's very specific personal interests rather than actually looking at the interest of the farmers. From the COG, actually, which is what we need to focus on, the Council of Governors, for us it came as a shock that the Council of Governors would take a position that undermines the interest of almost 5 million beneficiaries in the tea sector and takes it beyond tea to the coffee to the other farmers. We have 650,000 farmers in tea across the 17 counties that grow tea. And so when we had the Council of Governors coming to say that the only reason why they are rejecting these regulations is because they were not consulted, not because that these regulations are going to harm the tea farmer. It was an ego play on their part. And they were saying that they were not consulted. Agriculture policy, under Section 5, the Schedule 5 of the Constitution, Section 29, agriculture policy is not devolved. It rests with the national government, because you can imagine, out of all the 17 counties, if each of them was to come up with an agriculture policy or their own regulations, it would be chaos. Yeah, so that's why these regulations are domiciled within the national government, and the national government under the Ministry of Agriculture went through the same right process, involving them like governors as stakeholders. In 2015, Safari Park Governors Council, the COG was invited to engage on this regulation. So if someone has come in as a governor in this new term, and then they say that they have not been engaged, yes, it's true, they've not been engaged as an individual, but as governors, they've been engaged and they gave their points. Okay. Yeah. Right. So we were very shocked, especially to see that some of the governors fighting this, actually governors from the tea growing areas, and we were wondering what's the end game for them. Yeah.
So with all these conflict and regulations coming in, and the seeking to regulate the sector, so to say, do you think that there is hope for this sector now?
For this sector? For
the sector, yes, for the tea sector.
No, absolutely. Actually, what we are seeing is that the gospel of the reforms is one that has been taken up at the right levels. On 14th January of this year, the President of the Republic had State House in Mombasa kind of detailed the kind of reforms that we need in the tea sector, and appointed the new minister, Peter Munya, to come in and oversee the implementation of these reforms. Since then, on 29th of June, the regulations were gazetted, and of course they went to Parliament. This week, the Parliamentary Committee, delegated legislation, reviewed the regulations after going through the different stakeholders, and they upheld them, and they passed them. Yeah, we're just waiting for the official communication from them, but they passed them. The KTD had already gone to court, and the IATA to stop the regulations. But we've seen even this week the courts uphold issues around the election of directors at the factories in line with what is in the regulation. So across the board, what we are saying is it's never going to be easy. It was never going to be an easy journey or an easy fight, but we are seeing small wins that will lead us to the main win. We've seen the tea bill under the Agriculture Committee of Parliament last week. They did their report, their retreat. They came up with a report that then details how do we go forward on the tea bill, because the tea bill carries everything, including the regulations and things that are going to really help the tea farmer, from the tea research to the tea board and all these other things. So I think for farmers, what I say is that there's a lot of hope. We've come from very far, and we cannot despair. We are almost there.
All right. As we come to an end of this conversation, what would be your parting shot in 30 seconds?
I think the parting shot is to the people, the ones who are holding fort for the cartels and also within the KTD. I think, you see, at the end of the day, the reforms have to happen. The reforms are not about individuals. The reforms are about the 650,000 farmers. It's about the 5 million dependents on this subsector. It's about the 700,000 coffee farmers, because the reforms in tea will also open up the space for reforms in coffee. It will open up space for reforms in pyrethrum and all the other areas. So in everything that we do, I think at the end of the day, let's look at how will it impact on these other people. And it's never an easy way. I was speaking to someone and I told them, look at Sri Lanka. They have their Ceylon tea, which becomes a global, it's a huge global sale. It's sold across the world. It delivers twice, thrice the price to the farmer in Sri Lanka as it does in Kenya. Why can't we have Ketepa doing the same for us? And the person who's a very senior person in government told me it's very difficult. And I was very upset because I told them, yes, the reason why it's difficult because we need to put in an effort to get it delivered, because at the end of the day, we are in these positions to be able to deliver for the farmer.
Right.
And for us, it's a hope that with the new dawn is that we'll all start looking at beyond our own personal interest. How can we help the other, uplift the other Kenyans?
Uplifting the other Kenyans, the tea farmers, and ensure that they have the money in their pockets.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Irungu Nyakera, for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, that was Irungu Nyakera. He is the chairperson of the Kenya Tea Sector Lobby, and we have been having a conversation on matters the tea sector, including a deep dive into those regulations that were fronted by the government. Now we move on to other news. A section of sugarcane farmers from the Nyando Sugar Belt have questioned the Council of Governors' rationale to oppose the 2020 sugar regulations gazetted by Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya. The farmers under the Kenya National Alliance of Sugarcane Farmers Organization say the new regulations seek to, among others, protect sugarcane farmers from cheap imports that have crippled the local millers.
The Council of Governors, in a joint communique issued last week, took issue to the proposed reforms on tea and sugar initiated by the Ministry of Agriculture. The governors argued that agriculture was a devolved function and some regulations would hurt farmers in the long run, calling for a fresh round of stakeholder consultation before implementation. However, sugarcane farmers from the Nyando Sugar Belt that comprises the counties of Nandi, Kericho and Kisumu are backing the new regulations on account that reforms in the industry were long overdue.
Sisi kama wakulima wa miwa tunashangaa kwa nini miwa peke yake ndio wale wamechaguliwa wamekalia. Hii ni kumaanisha kwamba cartels ambao iko Kenya hii wako sana kwa hii sekta ya miwa.
Despite hurdles in the implementation of the new regulations, the farmers want the ban on importation of cane enforced.
It is being said that somewhere in Mombasa they sat down and resolved to reject the regulations in totality. Any farmer who listens to this all over the country are calling us as leaders and asking us. They were actually expecting good things out of this thing. Are these governors and senators for us or they are against us?
Among other measures, the 2020 regulations direct millers to pay farmers within a week of cane delivery.
Now, a 200-meter boardwalk to a seafood picnic site at the Mida Creek in Kilifi County is a tourist gem. The creek is being used to highlight conservation and education on birding and fishing to those visiting, as Irene Muchuma Odem highlights on tonight's episode of Magical Scenes.
A breathtaking sunrise cruise to the Middle Creek from the mainland in Watamu, Kilifi County, leads you to beautiful views amid a calm ocean. During this time of the day, the tides are usually low, and this could just be one of the most peaceful Indian Ocean cruise. The 42-kilometer creek has wide, healthy beds of seagrass and awesome coral, home to several species of fish, birds, and sea turtles. But there is more to this tourist site to behold. A 200-meter boardwalk to seafood picnic site is rare in style. This is a stopover for several migratory birds and an essential protected area for their survival.
Katika uhifadhi tunajihusisha sana na upanzi wa mikoko. Tunajihusisha hivyo na kuelimisha jamii kuhusu mbinu badala za maisha tukitegemea hii rasilimali ya mkoko ama ya bahari. Hivyo tunajihusisha na mambo ya usafishaji wa fuo za bahari kama beach huko kwa Indian Ocean na pia kwa creek.
ITFAT National Museums as a department of herbarium that deals with plants. It has been researching a lot on coastal plants and also on marine animals in this region. And National Museums as a project that we are implementing with the local community here at MIDA. And this project has a number of components, and one of them is climate change mitigations.
If you are lucky, you would spot a flamingo. This rural wooden stilt hut on a boardwalk is a picnic site. It has magical panoramic views of the mangrove forest and the creek. The Eco Initiative promotes conservation studies to locals and visitors. Nevertheless, as the saying goes, if more of us valued food and cheer and sing above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. How about you have a taste of the seafood at the creek, including samosas, whose key ingredient is crabs. Irene Mchuma Odim, Medical Science in the county of Kilifi.
And the government is calling on investors to take advantage of investment opportunities prevented by the Konza Technopolis that has been termed as a regional model of building cities. ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru says the data center at Konza City is now ready to host government and private sector data needs. Konza Technopolis has attracted over 40 firms that had applied to establish investments in technological ventures. So far, more than 40% of the 145 parcels under Phase 1 of the project had already been taken up. Those who have already taken up space at Konza include a South African Specialized Hospital, an American hospital, software development companies, real estate developers, hotel and residential houses. The ICT Ministry is calling on investors to tap opportunities at the Konza City.
Globally, many new technologies have come up on how to build, how to manage cities and ensure that those cities are smart. Konza is the showcase for our region, for our country, for everyone to see how we can be able to implement this effectively, efficiently, and really improve the quality of lives of Kenyans. And so I would encourage everyone to go to Konza.
The Technopolis is anchored on three main clusters, which are IT, IT-enabled services, engineering, and life sciences. As a special economic zone, the Technopolis ranks high in the ease of doing business due to incentives by the government. The National Data Center, located at Konza Technopolis, is now ready to host government and private sector data needs. The ministry has exuded confidence that the state-of-the-art facility will be of great benefit, especially for government agencies.
We have a Tier 3 data center which, according to international standards, we are actually a data center that should be 99.99% available every other time. So we really welcome many more agencies to come on board. And actually very soon we are preparing a policy to try and encourage as many other government agencies.
Konza City and the county governments of Kajiado, Machakos and Makueni have established a team to guide developments within a 10-kilometer buffer zone of the Technopolis. The Food and Agriculture Organization projects that new swarms of locusts could invade northern Kenya from Ethiopia in 3 weeks. FAO Deputy Country Director Hamisi Williams says they have heightened surveillance in counties bordering Ethiopia as they monitor movement of the pests.
Early last month, the government said efforts to contain the locust invasion had borne fruits and only a handful of swarms were being spotted in the counties of Turkana and Samburu. However, the joy might be short-lived, as Kenya now faces another invasion of the invasive pests. The Food and Agriculture Organization says new swarms of locusts have been spotted in the neighboring Ethiopia.
2019 we had it, large scale. Now 2020 we are saying, according to those predictions, we may have it again, you get. And you never know, because if things don't happen, then we may again 2021, and you get the point.
FAO says the locusts that are breeding in Ethiopia and Somalia are likely to cross into Kenya in the next 3 weeks. FAO says it might need an additional budget on top of the 14 billion shillings they had for containing locusts in the East African region.
To control desert locust is a very expensive affair and requires huge logistical support and arrangement. To get the bases where they are, to manage ground scouts, so that you know when they are going, where are they going, how many are they have the equipments are working, you supply them with the chemicals, it's like a warfare. It's that very logistic heavy.
Aerial surveillance of the locusts has been heightened in the northern Kenya. A World Bank report indicates that the first invasion of locusts in East Africa and Yemen cost the affected nations about 900 billion shillings in food import bills and missed economic opportunities. Benson Tuoba reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Completion of the first 3 berths of the Lamu Port project is likely to be in October next year. The project was delayed due to COVID-19 disruptions, but officials insist construction is still on course. The first berth is complete, with construction of the other 2 ongoing. The Lamu Port project is projected to have 32 deep-sea berths. The first 3 are fully financed by the Kenyan government, with the remaining 29 to be financed by the private sector under the Build, Operate and Transfer model. The cost of the short-term plan, including the first 3 berths, is estimated to be 70 billion shillings. Completion of the government-funded berths is now set for October next year. Project officials say despite COVID-19 disruptions delaying the project, construction is on course, with the 3 berths now 83% complete.
With the first berth already 100% complete, and we are looking forward to having all the 3 berths completed by June, October next year.
Interior Principal Secretary Dr. Karanja Kibicho led a team of 9 principal secretaries under the National Development Implementation Technical Committee to inspect works at the port. Dr. Kibicho said the team has so far visited 1,500 national government projects countrywide. He said the committee has unlocked delayed projects that cost the government money in delay penalties.
We have so far been able to bring before us about 1,500 projects and unlocked roughly 1,200 projects that were not moving, costing government money in terms of delay penalties, costing government money in terms of disbursed funds with projects that are not moving.
On the completion of the first 3 berths at Lamu Port, the project is expected to create at least 1,500 jobs. Across borders now, Egypt is aiming to revive its tourism industry, which has been hard hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, with a new marketing campaign about pyramid plateaus, co-sponsored by the country's ministries of tourism and information and produced by an international marketing firm. The campaign includes aggressive advertising on foreign and domestic media to keep Egypt in the minds of international travelers. Here are the details of these and other stories in our international business roundup.
Tourism, one of Egypt's pillar industries, yielded about $13 billion in 2019. In 2020, however, the sector has suffered a major setback due to the pandemic. Egyptian authorities hope that once the second wave of the pandemic is over and restrictions are lifted, travelers will choose Egypt as a priority destination. Besides spreading information about Egypt, the campaign mentions the refurbishment of pyramids of Giza Plateau to make the visit to the oldest wonder of the world a more enjoyable experience. The Grand Egyptian Museum, scheduled to be open next year, will be the largest in the world. The project reveals Egypt's intention on global promotion. The campaign also focuses on Egypt's health measures and conditions. Elsewhere, Samsung Electronics has reported record revenues of $59 billion for its third quarter. The strong revenues was fueled by a 50% jump in smartphone sales, while profits from microchips increased 82%. The Korean tech firm posted a third quarter net profit of $8.3 billion, a 49% increase over the same period last year. Samsung's mobile and chip businesses were likely boosted by US sanctions against its Chinese rival Huawei. The increase in sales likely reflects that Samsung is eating into Huawei's market share as US restrictions hit the Chinese telecommunications giant. And financial markets have tumbled around the world for a second day this week amid concerns that a rise in coronavirus cases will hurt still tentative economic recoveries. Major US indices sank 3.4% or more, while European bourses also saw steep falls. The UK's FTSE 100 ended almost 2.6 lower Wednesday, and Germany's DAX dropped 4.2%. The declines were widespread as investors sold off shares in favor of less risky assets like the US dollar. In the US, travel and energy firms, which are sensitive to concerns about the pandemic, suffered some of the steepest losses.
Let's now do the sports. Ulinzi Stars head coach Benjamin Nyangweso has asked Football Kenya Federation to extend the transfer window dates in order to give clubs ample time to recruit new players before the season begins. The transfer window, which started on 10th of August, is set to end on 2nd of next month.
In the 5th position in there.
After the Football Kenya Federation (FKF) opened the transfer window for clubs on 8th August, top-tier league clubs have bolstered their squad ahead of the new season, which is set to kick off mid-next month. But Ulinzi Stars is yet to make any new signings and is planning to retain the squad that featured in the previous season, finishing in the 4th position on the Kenyan Premier League table.
Kikosi nafikiri sijaongeza mtu sababu hakukuwa na hiyo time kwa heka ya hii mambo ya COVID. So far sijapata nafasi ya kuleta mtu. Bado niko na wale nilikuwa nao. Maybe kama wata extend kidogo window, watu wa train tutajua, kwa sasa huwezi chukua tu mtu haujua kwa aje.
While a few Kenyan Premier League teams have started training following the government's directive that allowed non-contact sessions, Ulinzi are yet to resume camp.
Kisema tutaanza tu tutatrain tukiendeleaga. But kama wanaweza tupea muda pia kidogo tutashukuru, ambapo pia haitawezekana sababu ya calendar. Lazima tuingiane na FIFA calendar, so inakuwa ngumu, but sisi tutakuwa ready anytime. Wakisema tutaendelea, tutacheza tu vile hivyo, tuna ile mazoezi kidogo tutakuwa naye. Although tutakuwa 100% fit.
The team finished in the 4th position last season with 43 points after winning 11 matches, drawing in 10 and losing 2 matches. Frederick Mwoki for Channel 1 Sports.
Harambee Stars coach Jacob Ghost Mulee has named his technical bench ahead of the national team's two-legged Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Comoros. Mulee has named Twahir Muhidin, William Muluya and Ken Odhiambo as part of his backroom staff. Hagai Azande has also been named as the goalkeeper trainer. The first leg set to be played at home on November 11th and the return leg scheduled on November 15th.
I want to see how the players who are playing in Kenya are doing. I've been watching them in the leagues, playing continental matches. So it's exciting to have the players come in, and our first session looking at who is where. Of course, we know they've not had a season going. Since March, they've not played competitive apart from the game against Zambia. So again, we come and see. It's been nice to beat Zambia. Now we come back and see where we are, who is going to maybe make the cut for the Comoro game, because that is what we are training for right now. Now, when you haven't played competitive football and then your opponents are playing in European leagues, because Comoro, they have no single player playing at home, even they don't have a league at home. So it's a big disadvantage for Kenya. However, we'll try to use the players who are very active right now, most of the abroad-based players. So that is a plan, but you never know what might happen. If we have all of them coming, perfect for us. If we don't, then we'll try to make a combination.
Internationally now, Hakim Ziyech scored his first Chelsea goal as Frank Lampard's side picked up 3 points in an emphatic 4-0 win in UEFA Champions League match against FK Krasnodar in Russia. Elsewhere, Marcus Rashford came off the bench to score a clinical hat-trick as Manchester United pounded RB Leipzig 5-0.
Ziyech into Havertz, Hudson-Odoi, and it's in through the goalkeeper. Callum Hudson-Odoi scores. Big mistake by Matvei Safonov, and Chelsea have the lead. Callum Hudson-Odoi. Timo Werner's ready to take and scores, and Chelsea lead 2-0. Football. Werner turns it square. Ziyech 3-0. Ziyech scores for Chelsea. His first goal since joining from Ajax, and the points are well and truly safe. Tinovic beaten here by Abraham. He's Pulisic, and it's 4. And that is harsh on Krasnodar. But Christian Pulisic makes it 4-0 to Chelsea with a counter.
Shot is deflected and in, and Ousmane Dembele has made the breakthrough. There's an element of fortune about it, because the clip off the defender looped it past Wojciech Szczesny. There was nothing that he could do about it. But Ousmane Dembele, who's had nothing but misery on the injury front in the... Lionel Messi, unstoppable. Barcelona over the hills and far away.
Sancho from the spot. No problem, strokes it home. The breakthrough comes, or goes Holland to finish with a flourish. He wasn't going to keep missing, was he?
The form that he's been in this season, he fancied him, just a long ball up front. With a flick on, and he is onside.
Out the passageway now. Excellent by Pogba. Greenwood's in, and Greenwood scores. Behind them, the flag's gone up. Marcus Rashford's going to finish it anyway. Here's Marcus Rashford again. He's in behind them once more. It's Rashford. It's 3. What an impact. Here comes Martial, who scores. It's 4-0. Number 5. Marcus Rashford on a hat-trick, and he gets it. Marcus Rashford has come off the bench and absolutely lit up Old Trafford.
Well, Manchester United fans must have had themselves a good night after that great score by one Rashford, that hat-trick. Now, that brings us to the end of Business Insight this particular evening. Thank you very much for joining us, for keeping us company and interacting with us online. Do have yourself a good night. I am Betty Kiptum. Lensa Odingo has been my colleague on the sign language interpretation.
it's time for us to find out how the weather will be in the next 24 hours here in the home country and across the borders. And tonight, there are showers in the county of Nairobi and counties around the region. There are also showers over the northeastern parts of the country and the coastal strip, but the northwestern parts of the country and the southeastern lowlands are currently experiencing partly cloudy conditions. In the county of Kisumu, there are showers accompanied by thunderstorms over a few places, and that is how the night will be. Tomorrow, there'll be rains in the capital of a few places, and these will also affect Meru and Nyeri. Wajir, Marsabit, Garissa, Sololo areas on the coastal strip will experience scattered wet conditions during the morning hours. It will rain in Kitale, Kakamega, and Eldoret during the morning hours, as much as sunny intervals will mainly dominate the Lake Basin region and the northwestern parts of the country, equally to the western sector, but along the border of Kenya and South Sudan. There'll be rains over a few places as much as in Lodwar. Sunny intervals will prevail throughout the day, including the afternoon, but there will be showers accompanied by thunderstorms in Kisumu, Kakamega, Kitale, Eldoret during the afternoon hours. In the capital, there will be showers in the afternoon, and the same weather patterns will be experienced in Meru and also over the northwestern parts of the country and the northeastern parts of the country. The coastal strip will mainly experience sunny intervals, and this cloudiness here will only affect a few areas, and that does not mean that there will be any wet activity in that region. But in Machakos, Makindu, and Voi during the afternoon hours, there will be showers over a few places. Let's have a look at temperatures, and this is it. Mandera, still at 8, highs of 33 degrees Celsius. The capital will experience highs of 23 degrees Celsius. And for you in Lodwar, let's be prepared for highs of 35 degrees Celsius. This, as the northern parts of the country will tomorrow experience strong southerly winds of 12.5 meters per second. Up next is the international forecast. You have a good night. See you tomorrow. God willing.